Welcome to Wild Things, everyone. We're on episode 5. Episode 5. So if you've missed the other episodes, I hope you'll go back and watch those and send me some pictures of your activities and things that you've done. Today we're starting off inside, and what we're going to talk about today is about being an animal detective. And part of being an animal detective is being able to see signs and clues about animals that live outside. There are lots of different things you can look for when you're looking to be an animal detective, and one of those is you can look for trails, you can look for houses or dens and holes in trees and things like that. You can look for scat, which is another name for poop. And you can look at animal tracks, which is what we're mostly going to talk about today. So the first thing I'm going to do, since you've not been in school, you probably haven't had a lot of teachers reading books to you, but we're going to read this book called Big Tracks, Little Tracks, Following Animal Prints. And then we're going to go outside and see what we can find for animal tracks. Okay, Wild Things, we're going to go ahead and read this book called Big Tracks, Little Tracks, Following Animal Prints by Millicent E. Selsom. I'm going to skip the very first part of the book because otherwise this recording would be too long, but the first part basically tells us that a cat's paw prints or animal tracks do not leave claw marks because their claws are retractable, and a dog or canine track does leave claw marks. So we're going to start in with this more wild animal type tracks on this part of the story. The footprints of a fox are in a single line like a cat's footprints, but they have claw marks like a dog's. What kind of footprints does a rabbit make? You can see that a rabbit has little front paws and big hind feet. The little front paws will make little paw prints. The big hind feet will make big tracks. Now here's another problem for a nature detective. Who went lickety-split across the snow? A rabbit, of course. But which way did he go? Did he go to the tree, or did he go away from the tree? It looks as if he went toward the tree, doesn't it? You can see the marks of the front paws ahead of the big hind feet. But do you know how a rabbit jumps? Look at that. When a rabbit jumps, he puts his big hind feet ahead of his front paws. What happened here on a snowy day? You can see the rabbit tracks in the snow. You know which way they are going. All at once, the rabbit tracks are far apart. This means the rabbit began to take big jumps. He was in a hurry. Why? Did you see those tracks coming out of the woods? Those tracks have claw marks like a dog's, but they are in a single line like the tracks of a cat. Who could have made those tracks? There is only one answer. A fox. Now you know why the rabbit was in a hurry. Did the fox catch the rabbit? Look again at the picture on page 17. Look carefully. The little rabbit made it safely into the tree. There are big hoof prints in the mud near the river, and there are little hoof prints too. Who is here? It was a mother deer and her baby fawn. They came to the river for a drink. Somebody sat down on the muddy bank of the river. But who? And somebody made the track that goes right into the water, right here. A bullfrog came out of the river. He sat on the muddy bank to rest. And only a snake leaves a track like that. A snake came down to the river. Then he slithered into the water. Here are more tracks in the mud near the river. And there is a little pile of empty shells, too. They are crayfish shells. The tracks look something like the hands and feet of a baby. But look at those long claws. A raccoon made those tracks. Raccoons like to catch crayfish and eat them. So now you know what happened. A raccoon had dinner here last night. He found crayfish in the river. He ate the crayfish, and he left the shells in a little pile. A nature detective can find many clues on a sandy beach. When you walk on the beach in the morning, look for the seagull tracks. They can tell you which way the wind was blowing when the gulls were there. Like airplanes, seagulls take off facing into the wind. First, the gulls must run along the sand to get up speed for takeoff. As they run, their toes dig deeper into the sand. Here, all of the gull toe tracks are in a line facing east, so you know that the wind came from the east. Tracks are good clues for a nature detective, but there are other clues too. There's a pile of sand. Who ate here? A pile of nuts. A nature detective learns to look and listen and smell. She could find clues in a backyard, or in the woods, or in a city park. Who made that smell? Do you know who made these tracks? All right, so that's the end of that book. Okay, so we came down to the creek, and we are going to follow this animal trail, which you often find when you're walking through the woods or in grasslands. Lots of times they lead to water, and that's what we're going to follow is this path. And we're going to go down to the creek and see how many different types of animal tracks we're able to find. So follow me. Lots of animals use water bodies like a stream or river, either as a place to catch food, get a drink, or actually live. And I think we found some tracks here. If you can get a close-up, you can see, if I cannot fall down in this mud, right here you can see the tracks. There's 3 lines, and then you can faintly see, oh, we're in the shadow of it now. You can faintly see the webbed feet. And these are pretty small tracks. And if I were to guess, I would say these are duck tracks. A duck, you can actually see them in the water. The duck walked out of the water and came over here and continued on. So there's some duck tracks. I think we'll move further down here and see if we can find any other kinds of tracks. Well, Silas found some tracks in the water that look very much like the duck tracks, except they're like 3 times the size. You can see them here. Si, point some of those out that you found. In the water, they're in the water and they come out of the water. And these look a lot like turkey tracks, but if you look carefully, you can see the webbed feet. And we know from being down here, we've seen a lot of Canada geese, and they like to walk through here. And so I'm sure these are Canada goose tracks. Then moving over here, Andy found some tracks. This one, some kind of canine track, I believe, but I'm not sure about these small tracks here. We'll have to look those up in a guidebook. I just am not sure if it's they're too small for raccoon. I'm not sure what those are. Let's go see if we can find some raccoon tracks. Well, just like in the book, Andy just spotted these tracks. They look like baby hands, don't they? And these are little raccoon prints, and these are really nice ones that formed in this this mud is not real mushy, but it's not solid rock hard either. So you see a lot of these tracks down here that look to me like raccoon tracks. Again, I'm not an expert. Raccoon tracks and possum tracks look similar, but I believe these are raccoon tracks. Pretty much everybody in Iowa, I think, has probably seen these tracks. These are very deep in the mud here. And these are, what kind of tracks, Si? You know what these are?
Deer tracks.
Deer tracks, yep. And we'll show you some deer tracks that are in the sand, and they, you can see how much different they look in sand. I mean, it depends on the substance that they're stepping into, but those are definitely deer tracks. Let's see if we can find anything else. So we came over to a sandy patch here and found some more deer tracks. You can still see the 2 marks that their hooves leave, the 2 toes of the hoof in these tracks, but they're not quite as distinct. And a good tracker will be able to tell you how long ago those tracks were made and what how fast the deer was moving and things like that. I'm not a great tracker, but a lot of hunters and trappers are excellent trappers and trackers and could probably teach a lot about that kind of thing. We just found some more raccoon tracks in this muddier section, a little bit wetter section of creek bed, and you can see that there's little claw marks on each of the tips of these little hands or little fingers. Here's some distinct claw marks right next to a goose track. Goose tracks all over in here. All right, so for today's activity, we're going to do something that's kind of an artwork that's one of my favorite types of artwork, which is using printmaking. And in this case, because you probably don't have like sophisticated printmaking tools at home, we're going to use a potato. So you need to have a potato, a parent around so you can cut the potato with a knife, a paintbrush. You need 2 paper clips. 1 paper clip will be bent out because you're going to use the sharp end there to carve into the potato. And then you're going to need a potato that, or not potato, a paper clip that's unfolded like this. And I'll show you how to use that in the next video here. But this is going to be used to carve out the potato. Finally, you need either ink or paint and a piece of paper or your nature notebook. And I'll show you how to do the activity now. All right, we're going to start our potato carving now. I'm going to cut my potato just to make it a little bit easier, smaller size to work with here, because I'm not making that big of a track. All right, what I did is I drew out a picture of a dog track, which is what I want to carve into my potato. So you just draw it on a sheet of paper that's going to be the right size to fit on your potato. And when you have the drawing on there, just take your pointy end of your paper clip and just punch some holes along the edges of your design. Like that. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of carve it out just to make an outline. And do the toes. Actually, I'm just going to kind of guess here. That's not working so well. I'm gonna wing it from here on out here. Need 4 toes here. Make another toe. I'm not used to working with potatoes, guys. But it's kind of cool. We'll speed this up. Okay, we're ready for the printing part. I did a practice one here to make sure this is going to work. These are the ones I made out of white paint and black paper, some cat prints, and some bird tracks. This is what the potatoes looked like when I was done. Here's the bird track one and the cat print one, carved with paper clips. Trying a dog print one here that you watched me do is a little bit harder because those tiny claws. But the first thing you want to do after you carve it is pat your potato dry on a paper towel, like that. Get it all dried off because then the paint sticks a little bit better. Take some of your paint on your paintbrush and just brush it onto the parts of the potato that are sticking up like a stamp. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, then once it's painted on there, take your paper. I'm going to move this over so you can see. So I'm going to use this yellow paper with the brown paint. And you just take your stamp, turn it upside down just like a regular stamp, and push onto the paper. So it's not a perfect print, but really in nature you never really see perfect prints. Every once in a while, I guess, but more often than not, there's going to be something that's not quite perfect. And I like it that way. I like that, and the nature notebook is to have it be kind of realistic. Try another print. I'll say this is a fox print because it's walking in a straight line. We'll do one more. Okay, last print. Alright guys, well I can't wait to see your tracks on your potato prints from your nature notebooks, so send them on to the email address you find at the end of this video. Thanks and have a good week.